So let's dive into the world of Power BI Desktop. For that, we have to download it first. To do so, we should go to the official Microsoft website here, powerbi.microsoft.com. And there, if you go to Products, click onto it, you can select Power BI Desktop. If you do so, you have two options to download it now, download free and see download or language options. This one is fine, you can do this, but I recommend the advanced download option here as it allows you to, well, select the language and as it also provides some additional information we'll have a look at in a few seconds. So let's click onto see download or language options. Now this new window opens and if we scroll down a bit here, we can first see that we can select the language Power BI Desktop should be installed and downloaded in. I'll go with English here. I recommend you to do the same at this point. And if we scroll down a bit further, you can also open this System Requirements menu. Here you see which requirements Power BI Desktop has. You see the required operating system. And down here, you see that you need a 32-bit or 64-bit Windows platform. If you're not sure here if you have a 32-bit or 64-bit platform, you can simply press the Windows key on your keyboard and then enter System Information. Then you can open this app right here. And there, under the system type, you see that I have a 64-bit based PC. If you have 32-bit here, then you should go with the 32-bit version. And you can select the corresponding version now. If you go to download, there you have the two options. So 64-bit for me, this would be the 32-bit version. And now, by clicking next, the download should start. As you can see down here, it can take a few seconds. And once this download is finished, we'll continue with the installation of Power BI Desktop. The download finished, so you should have this executable file here. If you double click it, the installation wizard starts. So you can again select the language. We selected English already, so we'll stick to this one. Pressing next will bring us to the next menu. Here we can simply click onto next. We can accept the license agreement, press next once again. There you can now change the path where Power BI Desktop should be installed to. For me, the default one works totally fine, so I'll click next once again. And then we can start the installation. I'll also create a desktop shortcut here. Maybe you do the same. So let's press install. Now this again takes a few seconds. Now the installation is done. And now we could launch Power BI Desktop immediately. I will untick this though and start it manually as I want to give you one additional information at this point. So let's untick this box and press finish. And now you have the Power BI Desktop application here on the desktop. If we now double click it, we open Power BI Desktop, and with that we open a new project. That's important at this point because if we open a new project, we also have to save a new one. We'll do this later throughout this introduction video. Just keep in mind, if you open Power BI Desktop like this, a new project will be opened. What you can see here now is the starting screen, the starting menu. Don't get distracted by this sign in part here. This is required for Power BI Service or Power BI Pro, so we'll cover this later throughout the course. For Power BI Desktop, no sign in is required. Now, we could directly connect Power BI Desktop to a source file if we go to get data right here, but I would like to go to the options menu first to show you one very important option for Power BI Desktop in general, but also to follow along this course conveniently. So let's close this pop-up here. And now we see the Power BI Desktop interface, something we'll explore in a lot of detail in the next module. For now, just go to File. Now to Options and Settings, right here. And now we go to Options, up there. In this menu, please go down to Current File, down here, and select Regional Settings. This menu allows you to set the so-called locale. As you can see here, the locale is important to interpret numbers, dates, and time, etc. So it's basically important to make sure that if I apply a change to data formats, that this change is also applied accordingly in your project. For your individual projects, you can use different locales. For the purpose of this course, I highly recommend to use English United States right here, also the locale I use. So just make sure that this is set correctly and press OK. And now we are back in Power BI Desktop. The problem we have, of course, is that we don't have any kind of data in our project. Let's change this quickly. For that, we stay in this home ribbon here and go to get data. If you click it in the lower part, you get a quick summary of some common data sources. If you click it in the upper part right here, you get an overview of all data sources. And as you can see, Power BI Desktop ships with a lot of data sources, many of these covered throughout this course. You can also select different data sources by category, for example, file data sources like Excel, CSV, and so on, or databases like SQL. Or you can also use this search option here. And if I now enter web, then you see we have this web source type. And that's the source type I want to use for this introduction project. If you select it and press connect, then, well, you can connect Power BI Desktop to a specific website. What is missing here, though, is our URL. Let's quickly get one. And here we'll now search for the IMF World Economic Outlook database. This one. Now, in my case, the April 2020 version is the latest one. If you have a more recent version at the point in time where you are watching this course, you can of course use this one because the structure will remain the same. You will just have more updated data. Talking about data quickly, the IMF World Economic Outlook database simply provides GDP data, so gross domestic product data, for different countries for different years. Therefore, it's a really nice data set to quickly get started with Power BI Desktop. Enough of the words, let's select this April 2020 version here in my case. Here we can now download or access the information. I will use by countries here in this menu. On the next page, we'll select all countries, this option. We can continue here, so we can select all our countries. Here we can now select the type of GDP data we want to download. I'll go with the gross domestic product in current prices, so the second option right here. So let's now press continue. Here we can now select the date range, we'll keep the default one, and with that we can now press prepare report. And now we have our information already. As you can see, if you scroll to the right, you have now GDP data for different years for different countries. Now we could download the information with this download button, or alternatively, we can directly access the information now from the browser, from the website, so to say. To do so, please select the URL up here, right-click it, and now press copy. Now go back to Power BI Desktop, and now right-click and paste this URL and click OK. Now this pop-up opens as Power BI Desktop wants to know how it should access this information on this website. As we don't have any critical data here, we can simply go with Anonymous here and access this information on the website without any specific credentials. So we can press connect here. And here we are now in the so-called navigator. The navigator now allows us to select the data or specific data that we want to receive from the website. We have two views available here, the so-called table view and the web view. The default view is this table view, and in this left part here you can see the content of the website divided into different tables, into different parts of that page, you could say. And if you click onto one of these tables, you can see that this is, well, this part of the page. This right here is another one. And here, table 5, this is the actual content that we need. So our data with the different columns and the GDP data. We also have this web view, as I said, this one right here. This presents us the entire web page. However, as you can see right here, the web view is a bit buggy from time to time, unfortunately, because normally you should be able to see the different tables here highlighted so that you could directly select the tables here also in the web view. This is not working here at the moment. Probably it's the same for you. Therefore, I recommend to go back to the table view and to quickly check the content of the page right here. And as I said, table 5 is the one that we have to select. And to finally select it, we have to tick this box right here next to table 5. Now with this table being selected, we also have two options down here, load and transform data. Now, a short note at this point. This is just the introduction project here. So the goal is to guide you through the first steps in Power BI Desktop to show you how easy it is to connect Power BI Desktop to data and to create your first visuals. Throughout the course, we'll dive a lot deeper into everything and a lot more you'll see in this introduction project. So for the moment, just follow along and enjoy the easiness of using Power BI Desktop. A quick preview on load versus transform data at this point though. Load would mean that you immediately load the information into your so-called data model. So this would mean that you want to immediately start visualizing your data, you could say. Transform data is the data preparation part I was talking about in the last lecture. This is this connecting Power BI Desktop to source files, but then working on columns, data formats, and so on. Therefore, we'll now select Transform Data here to see if we have to prepare our information. And if we do so, you see something interesting. You see a new menu, a new interface, and a new window which is opening. I can prove this to you if I click onto this button to make the window a bit smaller. You see, we still have our initial menu in the background with some pending changes. We'll cover that later throughout the course. And now we have a separate window, and this is the so-called Query Editor or Power Query Editor as it's named since a recent update. Now this Power Query Editor, or Query Editor as I will refer to throughout the course, now allows you to work on the connection to the source files and also on the structure of the information displayed right here. This means now it's time to explore this Query Editor and to do our first data preparation steps.